Hi there, I'm Kate McClellan, and I've been a professional wedding planner for over 20 years now. I started Planning Collective when I noticed that though most couples are super excited about getting engaged, they quickly feel overwhelmed and intimidated by the actual process of planning their weddings. If left unchecked, this can lead to massive burnout and the urge to scrap all your plans and just elope. While this is totally normal, you don't have to sacrifice your sanity for your dream wedding. In the Wedding Planning Collective podcast, I'm going to share the processes, tips, and tools that all engaged couples like you need to feel confident, supported, and excited about your wedding plans again. Let's get started. Hey, before we jump into today's episode, I want to share a free resource that I think every engaged couple should have. AI can be an incredible wedding planning tool, but it can also give you some really terrible advice. The tricky part, if you've never planned a wedding, is that it's hard to spot the difference. And that's exactly why I created my AI wedding planning cheat sheet. Inside, I'll show you what AI is really great at when it comes to wedding planning, where you should be cautious, and how to use it to save hours of time without letting one bad AI answer derail your entire wedding plans. Plus, you'll get 30 copy and paste prompts to help you with everything from budgets and timelines to vendor emails, wedding website wording, guest list questions, and design ideas, all written specifically for wedding planning. Think of it as your AI guide to planning smarter, not harder. You can download it for free now at planningcollective.com/AI. All right, let's get into today's episode. Hey guys, Kate here. Welcome back to the Wedding Planning Collective podcast. Right off the jump, before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure that you are signed up for the free wedding planning happy hour that's coming up. Each month, I'm going to be doing one of these happy hour sessions that are focused on a different topic. And this month, we're going to talk all about wedding day timelines. It's coming up on August 26th. I'll spend the first part sharing details on what you need to know to create a successful wedding day timeline. So continuing on our conversation from last week. And then at the end, I'm going to answer your live wedding timeline questions. It's all happening on August 26th at 6 p.m. EST. And there will be a replay for those of you who aren't able to make it live, or maybe you're watching this afterwards. Though I do highly recommend you attend live if you're able to, because I'll be able to answer your actual questions. You can sign up for free at planningcollective.com/happy hour and make sure to let your other engaged friends know about it. Moving on to today's episode, which came to me from something I noticed again and again that I was hearing from couples. And typically it's something along the lines of you had a weekend, maybe a Saturday afternoon, and you were excited to finally start checking some things off of your wedding planning list. But instead of making progress, you felt like you spent half the time figuring out what you were supposed to actually be working on, or maybe just scrolling Pinterest for a few minutes that turned into the whole afternoon. I hear it all the time. I feel like we spent hours on our wedding, but we didn't actually get anything done or accomplish anything. A few months ago, I got an email from one of my members, and she said, I swear we spent all weekend wedding planning, but if I had to answer what we actually got accomplished, I couldn't tell you one thing. And I remember thinking that I bet that this is such a common feeling. So many couples spend hours planning, but nothing's actually getting accomplished. Or maybe you're just adding more stuff to your to-do list. And it's not that you're procrastinating, right? You're actually trying to get things done. You're not avoiding the wedding planning, but for whatever reason, you're just not able to accomplish it or get anything checked off that list. This one specific bride was doing what so many people do when you're faced with a long to-do list, whether it's wedding planning or for something else. You make lists and you scroll and you look at emails, you look at Pinterest, you look at all of these things for inspiration. You spend all this time on it, but you don't actually make progress. In fact, you most of the time are adding more things to your list. And that's when I realized something, that wedding planning isn't typically about finding more time. Most people have the spare hour or two a week to spend on wedding planning, but it's more about knowing what to do with that 1 or 2 hours that's actually going to move the needle when it comes to the wedding. So we're going to work on that and how to break that down a little bit in today's episode. I think one of the reasons that I found this topic appealing is because I really get caught in this loop myself, even though I'm not, well, I guess I am planning weddings, but you know what I mean. I will have a free day, like a fully free calendar day with no appointments, no calls. And I'm so excited to get everything checked off my list, but then somehow it's 3 p.m. and maybe I've gotten a couple of things done, but I really haven't made the progress that I was hoping for. Sometimes it's because things take longer than you anticipate, right? Or something that takes priority over the other task that you are already working on. But a lot of times it's simply adding unnecessary things to your list that you feel like you need to do to truly check that one thing off. Maybe this is my ADHD brain a little bit. So if you don't relate to this, maybe that's part of the reason. So this episode is definitely for those ADHD brides out there that look at a to-do list and somehow when you have a couple hours to check stuff off, the list gets longer instead of shorter. Today, we're going to try looking at that list a little bit differently. Even if you have a whole day ahead of you to wedding plan, I want you to imagine that you only have 1 hour, not the full day, not the full weekend, just 1 hour. We can start there. I'm not saying you can't do anything else, but we're going to start with that first hour and we're going to talk about how I think you should spend that 1 hour. And we're going to talk about how I think you can best use that 1 hour to feel like you're truly accomplishing something. Okay. The first 10 minutes, I want you to figure out what is going to move the needle. Now, obviously, this is going to be different for everybody listening based on what you've already accomplished and where you're at in the wedding planning process. But ultimately, the first thing I want you to do is not open up Pinterest. It's not open up TikTok or Instagram, or even going back to those 20 open browsers or emails that you've started. The first thing I want you to do is spend a few minutes just really thinking about what is going to move the needle. What is the next thing that's actually going to move you forward in your wedding plans? Personally, when it comes to work, often for me, it's the thing that I've been putting off, right? The thing, whether it's a decision or an email or reviewing the budget, who wants to do that? That's not fun. We want to put that off. But often it's that one thing that we're putting off that's going to move the needle the most for us in whatever we're working on. And of course, same goes for wedding planning. I'm not talking about the biggest project or the prettiest or most fun project, but what do you think is the thing that is holding up other decisions or tasks that you need to do? Maybe it's finally deciding on your venue or photographer or linen color. Maybe it's reviewing your invitation proof so you can send it to print, or scheduling that engagement session with your photographer. It could be paying a deposit and finally locking a vendor down. Whatever it is, write it down. Now, for some of you, it might be one thing, or for others, it might be a list of things. I don't want this to turn into like just a random brain dump of all of the things you have to do, because that's not necessarily helpful either. But what are the things that you can actually take action on that will move the needle and help you make progress? I sometimes think of it as like untying a knot. When you're feeling like stuck and you have a big knot, you're not just going to start pulling randomly at the different strings that are involved in the knot, right? That's just going to make it tighter and harder to undo. But you're going to look carefully for the one piece that is going to help loosen things up. So that's what we're trying to identify right now. What is the one thing that's going to help you loosen up your plans? I wish I could tell you exactly what it is, but again, everybody's going to be in a different spot. So that's why I suggest that you sit down for like 10 minutes and take a look at your wedding plans and figure out what is that piece that's really going to loosen things up for you. When it comes to that knot, you get that one piece loose and you start to figure the rest out. It's not like you get the one piece loose and it's all magically undone, but it makes things easier, right? You can see more clearly what your next steps are. So that's what we're doing in those first 10 minutes. The next 15 minutes, I want you to focus on making one decision. So this is where we're going to actually start making progress. Not make all of the decisions, right? Just the one. So maybe it is that linen color. What are you finally going to decide the linen color is you're going to go for? What photographer are you actually going to book? Maybe you've been talking to 3 or 4 photographers. Now it's time to make a decision. Your goal is not to reach out to maybe the 5 other photographers that you haven't talked to yet, because if you have great photographers that you've already met with, they're within your budget and you like their style, why are you looking for more photographers, right? But that's what we tend to do. We tend to want to feel like I need to check off all of the options. I need to make sure that we've talked to every photographer or that we're not missing something. And the truth is, that's not realistic. There's always going to be photographers that you didn't notice, or venues that you didn't book, or something that you didn't know about until you've already made a decision, just like every other category in life, right? And you can't hold yourself back from making these decisions on like all of the what ifs. So you're going to take a look at what you have already done your research on, and you're going to make one decision in those next 15 minutes. Wedding planning is essentially one long chain of decisions. Every time you make one, it's going to unlock a whole bunch of other decisions that you'll have to make. And that's why it can feel overwhelming, but it's also a good thing. Once you book your venue, now you have your wedding date, which means you can move forward with looking at photographers. Once you decide on your venue, that means now you can start booking your other vendors, working on your timeline. You have your wedding date locked in, so you can send out save the dates. So checking one thing off is definitely going to add more to your list, but we're not focusing on that right now. We're just working on how we're moving the needle. Again, instead of looking at it as like now my list is growing because we did this one thing, we're looking at the needle of being close to your goal of having your wedding plan. I think sometimes we get caught up on those lists rather than seeing how that one step is bringing you closer to what you're looking to do. So today's the day, Saturday is the day, whatever day you have this 1 hour available, that is when you are going to make a decision. You're going to set a timer for that 15 minutes. You're going to make a decision and you're going to move on. Because most of the time, waiting another month is not going to make decisions any easier. In fact, it might just limit your options as far as what availability vendors have. Okay, now we're 25 minutes in. So for the next 15 minutes, we are going to keep one conversation moving. So again, just like everything else, this is going to depend on where you're at in your plans. But I want you to spend 15 minutes moving one relationship forward with a vendor. So this could mean sending an inquiry to a photographer. Maybe you're replying to an email from your venue with questions that they have for you, reviewing a contract from a florist that they sent over, or scheduling a consultation to look at different linens or rental items that you know you're going to need. I'm sure everyone has heard the line progress, not perfection, or progress over perfection, right? I happen to be a big fan of Marie Forleo, and that is a very common saying of hers. And I actually got a little sign that I have hanging up because I can so get caught in this loop of, well, I can't do this until I have like the rest of these steps done and not necessarily perfect, but fully checked off the list. And that's where you lose that momentum. You get stuck, right? Because you feel like you have to have all this other stuff done. So that's what we're going to try and avoid here. We're not trying to make our list perfect. We're just trying to make progress in moving forward on that list. And whenever I hear progress, not perfection, I always hear it in that like happy, motivating Marie Forleo way. So definitely makes me motivated and keeps me like checked, like, okay, we're not wasting time on Pinterest. We're not wasting time on looking through every photographer's possible options. We're making progress. We're not looking for perfection. Again, don't worry about getting all of the things done in this session. I'm sure quite a few of you out there have also listened or read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. And one of his lines is 1% better every day. I want you to think about that when it comes to your wedding planning. We're not trying to like fully finish everything in one session. But if you can get 1%, if you can get a 0.5%, if you can get like a little baby step forward in your planning session, then you're making progress, right? So we're trying to avoid just the loop of constantly getting more information and adding things to our list without making that progress. It's about keeping the conversations moving. Every email you send creates momentum. We're not trying to wrap everything up in a perfect little bow. We're just trying to make some progress here. Okay, minutes 40 through 50 is cleaning up future use life. A little cheesy, but this might be the most important or valuable step in today's episode. Because when it comes to weddings, you will collect all kinds of digital clutter, right? The second you sign up for one list, you're getting emails from so many other vendors. You have thousands of images on Pinterest and old contracts that you've gotten from vendors. And it just adds up in wherever you're collecting them, a Google Drive or whatever it might be. So for these 10 minutes, I want you to go through and declutter everything you can. Delete the old images, delete the old files. If you're not talking to that vendor or you already booked somebody else, get rid of their information, right? You might find some things that you still need to pay attention to, but it's not lost in that shuffle anymore. Time after time, when couples send me their Pinterest boards, I hear something like, oh, that was from right after we got engaged, or I pinned those before I knew what my dress or my venue was going to look like. And that's totally fine. Of course, our opinions and minds change. But what happens is we hang on to all of that stuff, not necessarily intentionally, but we don't think about like clearing them out. So every time you open Pinterest or your email or wherever you're collecting all of those files, you get inundated by all of this old information, or it takes you forever to find the details that you're actually looking for. So I want you to go through again, delete the old contracts, delete the old Pinterest images that no longer pertain to the wedding that you're planning. Get rid of that stuff, clear it out. It's going to help you find what you need to find easier and faster in the future, and it's just going to help you breathe a little bit easier when you're in wedding planning mode. If you're anything like me and you're a little bit of a digital hoarder, I can definitely relate to feeling like anxiety about just like fully deleting these things. So you don't have to actually delete them, but create a file or a Pinterest board or an email folder. Create some way where you can hide those items. So if for some reason you do need to reference back to that old Pinterest image or that contract that a vendor you're never going to book sent you 7 months ago, you still have access to it, right? But it's not something that's stressing you out or right in your face, getting in the way of the rest of your planning. Okay, for the last 10 minutes, minutes 50 through 60, I want you to stop planning. Sounds pretty silly, but I want you to stop actually planning and just think about your wedding. Ideally, the two of you are going to be able to sit down together and just think about where you're at with the planning. So, no distractions, no phones, no laptops, no contracts. Really just talking about where you're at with the wedding, where it stands right now, wherever you happen to be. Talk about how you're feeling about it. What are you excited about? What are you stressed about? Is there anything you've been avoiding? Are you still feeling good about the budget or where your plans are going? It's okay for your minds to change as you're planning. And this could be a time that you find that one of you has decided that something is less important, or maybe has thought about something a little bit differently. And so making sure that you have those check ins, even if it's just 10 minutes, to make sure you're both still on the same page is going to be super important. Again, they're not necessarily going to check anything off the list, but they usually make you feel like you're connected still on the same plan. Or if you need to pivot, at least you're catching it before it's too late. So you're probably not surprised that in this 60 minutes, I didn't tell you to scroll Pinterest without a specific idea in mind, get lost in Reddit or Facebook wedding groups and ask questions or get caught up in other people's drama or answers, researching vendors that you've already booked or you don't need, or most importantly, getting stuck on TikTok for hours looking through all of the endless wedding trend videos. That is not what we're doing with our 1 hour of wedding planning time. That's not to say those things are bad, but we're not going to waste our time when we're trying to be in productive mode on those things. Save those things for when you're watching Bravo and you can also mindlessly scroll TikTok, right? We don't want to waste our focused time on those things that are likely not going to move the needle very much. Before we wrap up, I want to make sure to stress that every wedding and every couple is different. So your power hour is going to look different than the next person's. So make this your own, right? If the structure I just outlined doesn't work for you, maybe you have 2 hours to work on this. Again, I'd like to keep things tight and we're not like just speaking in generalities. We want to make sure we're using focused work here, but adjust it for whatever works for you. If you're just engaged, your hour is going to look different. You're going to be talking about budgeting and guest lists and researching venues. If you're somewhere in the middle of planning, you're probably talking about the ancillary vendors you still have to book or ordering invitations. And if your wedding is just a couple of months away, your hour is probably working on wedding timelines, your confirmations, and all of those final details. So the details are going to be different depending on where you're at, but the framework is going to be the same. Making sure that you're focused on the things that are the most important, moving the needle to get you out of that stressful loop of not actually getting things done, and making sure that you are actually taking action to get things done for your wedding. And before I go, I have one challenge for you as it relates to this power hour of wedding planning, because I don't want you to just listen to the episode. I want you to actually use it. So whenever you have your hour, I want, again, put your phone on do not disturb or in the other room, pick your next task and give it your full attention. I think you will be surprised by how much progress you're able to make in like a focused 60 minutes rather than a full day of just scattered scrolling, because that's what it always turns out to be, right? And not that I want to encourage you to get on those scrolling platforms, but I would love to hear how you are using your power hour. So share it over on TikTok or Instagram and tag me at Planning Collectively. I would love to see how you turn this episode into progress. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. And if you found it helpful, I would absolutely love it if you could take a quick second to rate and review. It really does mean so much to me, and it helps other couples find the wedding planning help that they need. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.